The Great Hall of the Galactic Senate was the largest building Daniel had ever seen. It was so big that clouds formed near the ceiling. Thousands of seats rose up in circles, and in each seat sat a creature from a different world. Some had scales, some had feathers, some had no bodies at all, just floating lights that spoke with voices like wind. Daniel stood alone on a small platform in the center of the hall. He was the ambassador from Earth. He wore a simple black suit. His hands were steady, but his heart was beating fast. Behind him, a giant picture of Earth floated in the air. The blue oceans and green lands looked beautiful against the darkness of space. Today was the day that would decide everything. Today, the galaxy would vote on whether to let Earth join the Galactic Dominion. The Dominion had ruled the galaxy for 10,000 years. It was made of hundreds of species from hundreds of worlds. They shared trade. They shared knowledge. They shared protection. Every major civilization was part of the Dominion. Every civilization except Earth. Humans had only discovered faster than light travel 50 years ago. They had built colonies on 12 worlds beyond their home system. They had met other species and tried to make friends, but the Dominion had never accepted them as members. Until now. Now, Earth had finally been allowed to ask for membership. Daniel cleared his throat and spoke into the translator device on his collar. His words would be changed into 1,000 different languages, so everyone could understand. "Leaders of the Dominion," he said, "I come before you today to ask for something simple, friendship. Earth wants to join your great union. We want to trade with you. We want to learn from you. We want to share what we know." A sound like clicking filled the hall. Daniel looked up and saw the representative. There were tall creatures that looked like insects. They had hard shells and many legs. Their representative stood 8 feet tall and had eyes that never blinked. "The human speaks of friendship," they said. "But what does humanity know of peace? Your species has existed for only a tiny moment in cosmic time, yet in that moment you have fought thousands of wars. You nearly destroyed your own planet, twice." Daniel felt his face grow hot, but he kept his voice calm. "We do not hide from our past. Yes, we have fought wars. Yes, we have made mistakes, but we have also learned. We have grown. The Earth of today is not the Earth of 100 years ago." Another voice spoke. This one came from a creature that looked like a giant snake. There were cold-blooded beings with scales that shimmered in the light. Their representative coiled around a floating platform and hissed when she talked. "Learned, grown," they laughed. It was not a nice sound. "You cannot even stop fighting among yourselves. Your nations still argue. Your people still disagree. You are children playing at civilization." Daniel wanted to argue, but he knew it would not help. He had prepared for this. He had known that many species feared humanity. They saw humans as wild and dangerous. They saw Earth as a planet of chaos. "We are different from you," Daniel admitted. "We do not think the same way. We do not live the same way. But that does not make us enemies. It makes us interesting. We can offer you new ideas, new ways of seeing things, new solutions to old problems." The hall was quiet for a moment. Then a new voice spoke. It was deep and powerful and seemed to come from everywhere at once. "Enough talk. The vote will now begin." Daniel looked up at the highest seat in the hall. There sat Emperor VII. He was the ruler of the Dominion. His species, had founded the Dominion 10,000 years ago, had pale skin that was almost see-through. He had 4 arms and eyes that were completely black. He wore robes made of light itself. "All those who wish to accept Earth into the Dominion," the Emperor said, "signal now." Daniel watched the voting display. Green lights began to appear. Each green light was a vote in favor of Earth. He counted them. 10, 20, 30. Then they stopped. His stomach dropped. Only 32 votes out of over 1,000. "All those opposed," the Emperor continued. Red lights flooded the display. Hundreds of them. The voted red. The voted red. Species that Daniel had never even met voted red. The wall of red lights grew and grew until there was barely any green left. Then Emperor pressed his own hand against the voting panel. His vote appeared on the display. Red. The Emperor had voted against Earth. A voice announced the results. The motion to accept Earth has failed. By majority vote, Earth is hereby banished from all Dominion space. Human ships may not enter Dominion territory. Human colonies outside the Sol system must be emptied within 1 galactic year. If humans do not obey, the Dominion military will make them obey. Daniel could not believe what he was hearing. This was worse than rejection. This was exile. They were not just saying no to Earth. They were pushing humanity out of the galaxy. "You cannot do this," he said. His voice shook. "We have colonies. Millions of people live on those worlds. Families have been there for generations. You cannot just force them to leave." Emperor looked down at him. There was no anger in his black eyes, no hatred, just cold certainty. "The Dominion has decided," the Emperor said. "Your species is too young, too dangerous, too unpredictable. Perhaps in 1,000 years you may ask again. Until then, humanity will stay in its own system. The galaxy does not want you." Guards came to lead Daniel away. As he walked toward the exit, he passed the representative. The insect creature leaned close to him. Its breath smelled like metal. "Go home, little human," the whispered. "Play with your toys, fight your little wars. The real galaxy has no room for creatures like you." Daniel said nothing. He let the guards lead him out of the great hall. The massive doors closed behind him with a sound like thunder. But as soon as he was alone, he pulled out his communicator. His hands were not shaking anymore. His heart was not racing. He was completely calm. "Ambassador to Earth Command," he said. "Priority Alpha, begin Protocol Prometheus." Far away on Earth, deep under the Rocky Mountains, General Vance received the message. She was a tall woman with gray hair and hard eyes. She had spent her whole life preparing for this moment. "So they chose exile," she said quietly. Her assistant, Lieutenant Torres, stood nearby. He was young and nervous. "Ma'am, Protocol Prometheus means we are really going to do this. Are we sure?" Turned to look at him. "They gave us no choice. The galaxy does not want us. Fine. But they are going to learn something important about humanity." "What is that, ma'am?" Smiled. It was not a friendly smile. "They are going to learn what happens when you back us into a corner. Get me the Joint Chiefs. Get me Dr. Price at the Advanced Research Division. It is time to show the galaxy who they are dealing with." 5 years passed after the vote. To the rest of the galaxy, Earth went quiet. Human ships left their colonies just as the Dominion had ordered. Families packed their things and returned to the Sol system. Space stations went dark. Trade routes closed. The few Dominion ships that watched the border of human space saw nothing interesting, just a defeated species accepting its fate. "The humans have given up," the High Commander reported to Emperor. "They are staying in their system. They are no threat to anyone." The Emperor nodded. He was pleased. "Good. Reduce the number of ships watching them. We have more important things to worry about." This was exactly what humanity wanted them to think. On Earth, something very different was happening. In secret places all over the planet, humans were building. They were planning. They were preparing for a war that no one else knew was coming. Dr. Price was in charge of it all. He was a thin man with white hair and tired eyes. He had not slept more than 4 hours a night in 5 years. But every time he felt tired, he remembered the words of the "Go home, little human," and he kept working. His main laboratory was deep under the Nevada desert. It was so far underground that the sun never reached it. Thousands of scientists worked there day and night. The best minds from every nation on Earth had come together for one purpose. Dr. Mitchell was closest helper. She was young and brilliant, with short red hair and a mind that could solve problems most people could not even understand. She walked beside as he toured the facility. "Give me the latest numbers," said. Looked at her tablet. The new fusion reactors are working at 94% efficiency. That is better than anything the Dominion has. The hull plating we developed can take hits that would destroy any ship they have, and our communication system is fully ready. Every hidden base on Earth can talk to every other base instantly. What about the drives? Smiled. Dr. Christopher Yang cracked the equations 2 months ago. We have done 3 test flights with unmanned ships. The Dominion's fastest ship takes 10 years to cross the distance our ships can cross in 1 week. Stopped walking. In front of him was a massive underground cave. It was so big that it had its own weather. Clouds formed near the ceiling, and hanging in the middle of the cave, held up by invisible forces, was a warship. It was not like any ship humans had built before. It was sleek and dangerous looking. Workers in powered suits moved around it like ants around a giant metal beast. Robots welded pieces together with perfect accuracy. "How many ships do we have?" asked. 247 that are ready to fight. Another 600 being built. The hidden shipyards in the asteroid belt are working at full speed. Placed his hand on the cold metal of the ship. 5 years ago they said we were too young, too violent, too dangerous. He was quiet for a moment. They were right about one thing: we are dangerous, very dangerous, when we need to be. On the other side of the Pacific Ocean, another secret facility sat beneath the sea near the Philippines. Admiral Henderson worked there, training the new Terran Navy. Was a big man with a loud voice and no patience for mistakes. He had commanded ships for 30 years. Now he was building the greatest fleet in human history. "Look at this," he told his officers, pointing at pictures floating in the air. The pictures showed Dominion fleet formations. They have been fighting the same way for 3,000 years. They use lots of ships and lots of guns. They try to crush their enemies with size and power. Commander, his second in command, studied the pictures. "Their shields are very strong, Admiral. Our normal weapons would barely scratch them. Which is why we are not using normal weapons." Pulled up a new picture. It showed a long, thin torpedo. The Hellfire Mark IV. It does not try to break through shields. It goes around them. It appears inside the enemy ship and then explodes. The officers went quiet. They understood what this meant. "And our soldiers?" asked Colonel Peters. He was in charge of the new Terran Marine Corps. 3 million ready to fight, 10 million more in reserve. They have powered armor with personal shields, laser weapons, the ability to drop from space directly onto a planet. Leaned forward. "When we attack fast. The Dominion will not know what hit them until it is over." While the military prepared for war, President Hayes prepared the people. She was a strong woman who had been a soldier before she became a politician. She understood that the fight ahead would require everyone, not just the soldiers. Every man, woman, and child on Earth would need to do their part. In a secret meeting of the United Earth Council, she spoke to the leaders of every nation. "The evacuation is complete," she said. "All our people are back from the colonies, they are safe, and they are angry." Councillor Gregory Park of the Asian Federation spoke up. "The people want to know why we are hiding, why we are not fighting back." "Because we were not ready," answered. "But that changes soon. In 6 months, we begin Operation Homecoming. We are not just going to take back our colonies. We are going to show the entire galaxy that humanity will not be pushed around." The plan was simple but bold. Human fleets would attack at many places at the same time. They would hit military bases and colony worlds and space stations all at once. The Dominion would not know where to send help. They would be confused and scared. And while they were confused, humanity would win. In the months that followed, the final preparations were made. Ships were loaded with weapons. Soldiers trained until they could fight in their sleep. Scientists made the weapons even better. Dr. Price worked 20 hours a day. He checked every system, every weapon, every ship. He would not allow any mistakes. The future of humanity depended on everything working perfectly. One night found him sitting alone in his office. He was looking at an old picture. It showed a city on one of the colony worlds that humans had been forced to leave. Children were playing in a park. Parents were watching them smile. "That was New Helsinki," said quietly. "On the planet we called Haven. 50,000 people lived there. Good people. They built that city with their own hands, and the Dominion made them leave it all behind." "We will get it back," said. Nodded, "Yes, we will. And we will make sure no one ever takes anything from humanity again." 6 months later, the day finally came. In shipyards all over the solar system, engines roared to life. Weapons were loaded. Soldiers said goodbye to their families. Admiral Henderson stood on the bridge of his flagship, the TSS Defiance. It was the biggest and most powerful ship humans had ever built. Around it, hundreds of other ships waited for his orders. Looked at the stars on the. Somewhere out there, the Dominion thought humanity was beaten, thought they were harmless, thought the exile had worked. They were about to learn how wrong they were. "All ships," said, his voice calm and steady. "Begin jump sequence. Operation Homecoming is now active." The ships disappeared into fold space, moving faster than light toward their targets. The war had begun, and humanity was done being afraid. The colony world of Prime was supposed to be impossible to attack. Defense platforms circled the planet like a ring of metal. 50,000 soldiers guarded the surface. 3 battlecruisers patrolled the space around it. The High Command believed no enemy could ever take it. They were wrong. Admiral Henderson's fleet appeared out of nowhere. One moment the space around Prime was empty. The next moment, 50 human warships filled the sky. They had used their fold space drives to jump directly into the heart of the system, passing all the outer warning stations without being seen. "All ships weapons-free," commanded from the bridge of the TSS Defiance. "Target the defense platforms first. Hellfire torpedoes full spread." The defenders barely had time to understand what was happening before their orbital defenses began exploding. The Hellfire torpedoes did not hit the platforms from outside. They appeared inside them. The warheads materialized in the middle of reactors and weapon rooms and then detonated. Platform after platform burst into flame. The 3 battlecruisers turned to attack the human fleet. Each one was twice the size of any human ship. Their commanders were confident. They had studied the old human vessels from before the exile. Those ships had been slow and weak. These ships were not those ships. Terran destroyers moved around the big alien cruisers like wolves around bears. They were fast and agile. Their point defense guns shot down incoming missiles before they could hit. Their rounds punched through alien armor like needles through cloth. The first battlecruiser died in 20 minutes. A Hellfire torpedo appeared in its engine room and tore the ship in half. The second lasted longer, but a concentrated attack from 5 Terran destroyers overloaded its shields and ripped open its hull. The third tried to run away. It did not make it far. Within 90 minutes, every ship in the system was destroyed or drifting dead. On the surface of Prime, Colonel Peters led the ground attack. Drop pods fell from the sky like metal rain. Each pod carried a squad of Terran Marines in their powered armor. They landed directly in the capital city, right in the middle of the enemy forces. The soldiers fought back with weapons and tactics that had not changed in 1,000 years. They formed lines. They shot their plasma rifles in organized volleys. They expected the humans to do the same. The humans did not fight that way. Terran Marines moved through the city in small groups. They used cover. They flanked the enemy. They attacked from directions they did not expect. Their powered armor made them stronger and faster than any unprotected soldier. Their personal shields stopped plasma bolts that should have killed them. Led from the front, his armor taking hit after hit as he advanced. "Push forward," he ordered. "Get to the communications hub. We need to cut them off before they can call for help." Sergeant Brooks and her squad reached the hub first. It was a tall building in the center of the city, protected by heavy doors and 50 guards. "Charges set, Colonel," reported through her radio. "Ready to blow on your command." "Do it." The explosion tore through the building's outer wall, and her squad rushed inside. The fighting was close and brutal. Humans struggled in tight corridors, sometimes so close they could touch. But the human armor and weapons were simply better. Within an hour, the communications hub was silent. Prime could no longer talk to the rest of the Dominion. By the time word of the attack reached Emperor, the battle was already over. The Emperor sat on his throne, staring at the report in disbelief. His 4 hands gripped the arms of his chair so hard that his pale skin turned even. "This is impossible," he said. "The humans were beaten, they were weak." The High Commander appeared as a hologram before the throne. His image flickered with shame and anger. "They came from nowhere, Majesty. Their ships appeared in our system without warning. Their weapons cut through our shields like they were not there. We have never seen such technology." "How many ships did they send?" "About 50, Majesty. They destroyed our entire garrison fleet and took the planet with almost no losses." Was quiet for a long moment. 50 ships, 1 colony world, and the humans had won easily. "Send the 3rd fleet," he finally said. 1,000 ships. We will crush these humans and remind them why the Dominion has ruled for 10,000 years. But even as the 3rd fleet prepared to move, more reports came in. Human fleets were appearing everywhere at once. Mining stations in the outer reach, attacked and captured. Agricultural worlds near the spiral arm, under human control. Research outposts beyond the rim, taken in less than a day. Everywhere humanity had once had colonies, Terran forces struck with speed and power. They did not attack randomly. They chose their targets carefully: military bases, supply stations, communication centers. Each attack weakened the Dominion's ability to fight back. And the humans were not just attacking, they were winning every battle. Emperor called an emergency meeting of the Senate. The great hall that had once voted to exile humanity was now filled with fear. "How is this happening?" the matriarch demanded, her snake body twisted with anger. 5 years ago they had nothing, now they are defeating us everywhere. "They lied to us," the Archon rumbled. His huge body shook when he spoke. "They pretended to accept the exile. They built their forces in secret while we watched and did nothing. We should have destroyed them when we had the chance," the High Commander said. "I told you they were dangerous. I told you we should send our fleets to their home system and end them forever." "And now it is too late for that," said. His voice was tired. "Now we must find a way to stop them with what we have." But stopping humanity was not easy. The Terran Navy had advantages that the Dominion could not match. Their ships were faster. Their weapons ignored shields. Their soldiers fought like nothing the galaxy had ever seen. The 3rd Fleet arrived at Prime expecting to find 50 human ships. Instead, they found 300. Admiral Henderson had gathered forces from 6 other attack groups. He was waiting for them. The battle lasted 4 days. When it was over, the 3rd Fleet existed only in history books. 800 Dominion ships destroyed, 200 captured. The humans lost less than 30. On Earth, President Hayes watched the reports come in. Victory after victory. World after world returning to human control. The plan was working better than anyone had hoped. But she knew the war was not over yet. The Dominion still had more ships and more soldiers than humanity. They could still fight. They could still win if they found a way to work together. "What is the next target?" she asked Admiral Henderson through the quantum communication link. "The Nebula," replied. His face was dirty and tired, but his eyes were bright. The Dominion's Fifth Fleet is gathering there. If we destroy it, they will have nothing left to stop us. Then do it. End this war, Admiral. Yes, Madam President, with pleasure. The TSS Defiance and its sister ships turned toward the nebula. The next battle would decide everything. Humanity had started this fight with nothing but anger and determination. Now they stood on the edge of victory. The galaxy had tried to throw them away. The galaxy was about to learn that throwing humanity away was the worst mistake it had ever made. The war that the Dominion thought would end in weeks stretched into months. Then it stretched into years. The great powers of the galaxy had believed they understood war. They had been fighting each other for thousands of years. They had developed strategies and tactics that they thought were perfect. But those strategies had been developed to fight other Dominion species. Species that thought the same way. That fought the same way. Humans were different. Every move the Dominion made, the humans had a counter for it. When the Dominion tried to use their bigger ships, human torpedoes destroyed them from inside. When the Dominion tried to overwhelm with numbers, human fleets broke apart and attacked from multiple directions at once. When the Dominion built new defenses, human engineers found weaknesses before the defenses were even finished. The things that other species had called human weaknesses turned out to be strengths. Humans argued among themselves because they were always looking for better ideas. Humans fought each other because they were always practicing for war. Humans could not agree on anything because each human thought for themselves. When you put 1,000,000 individual thinkers against a problem, they found solutions that no single mind could discover. Admiral Henderson's fleet grew from 50 ships to over 800. The hidden shipyards in Earth's asteroid belt worked day and night. Every month, new warships joined the fight. Every month, the Dominion lost more ground. They build ships like insects build hives, the matriarch complained to the Imperial Senate. Her scales had lost their shine. Her voice had lost its confidence. Our factories cannot match their speed. For every ship we build, they build 10. Emperor listened to the reports with growing fear. The Third Fleet was gone. The Fifth Fleet had been lured into a trap at the nebula and completely destroyed. The Seventh Fleet had fallen apart when its commander was killed. The surviving crews refused to fight humans anymore. "What about our alliance?" asked. "Surely if all our species work together, we can stop them." The Archon shook his massive head. "The collective has voted. We are seeking peace terms with Earth. We cannot afford to lose any more ships." "Cowards," the High Commander spat. "You would abandon the Dominion." "The Dominion abandoned itself," the Archon replied calmly. 5 years ago, the humans offered friendship. We gave them exile. Now we pay the price for our arrogance. One by one, the member species of the Dominion began to surrender. They sent messages to Earth asking for peace, asking for mercy, asking for the fighting to stop. They were first. They were a species of scientists who had never liked war anyway. They offered to share their technology with Earth in exchange for peace. President Hayes accepted. They came next. They were gentle beings whose skin changed color with their emotions. Their ambassador was completely blue, the color of deep shame when he came to Earth. "We voted against you," the ambassador admitted to President Hayes. "We feared what we did not understand. We followed the others because it was easier than standing alone." Studied him for a long moment. She remembered the vote. She remembered how they had turned their lights red along with everyone else. "And now," she asked. "Now we understand our mistake. Humanity is not a threat to be locked away. You are a force that should have been welcomed. We do not ask for forgiveness. We only ask for the chance to do better." Nodded slowly. "Humanity does not forget what was done to us, but we are able to move forward. We will accept peace with but there are conditions. You will return everything that belonged to our colonists. You will open your borders to human ships, and you will never again vote to exile a species simply because they are different." The ambassador bowed low. We agree to all of it. As more species made peace with Earth, Emperor found himself more and more alone. Only the remained loyal, too proud to admit they had been wrong. The still hated humanity, but their military was broken and they had no choice but to stop fighting. Late one night, sat alone in his private chambers. He was 300 years old. He had ruled the Dominion for the last century. In all that time, no species had ever challenged him like this. His advisor, an ancient being named, entered quietly. "Majesty, the humans have sent a message. They want to meet with you directly." "What do they want?" "They have not said, but their fleet has stopped advancing. They appear to be waiting for your answer." Closed his black eyes. 5 years ago he had voted without even thinking about it. Humans were young and dangerous. Of course they should be exiled. It was so obvious. Now those same humans had brought his empire to its knees. He thought about the war, about all the ships that had been destroyed, all the soldiers who had died, all the worlds that had been lost. And for what? Because he had been too proud to give humanity a chance. "They could destroy us," said quietly. "They have the power to wipe out every species that voted against them." "Yes, Majesty, they could." "But they have not. They accept surrenders. They make peace with those who ask for it." Opened his eyes. "Why, if I had their power I would use it." Was quiet for a moment. "Perhaps that is the difference, Majesty. Perhaps that is what makes humans dangerous and valuable at the same time. They have the strength to destroy, but they choose when to use it." Stood up slowly. His 4 arms hung at his sides. He looked older than he had ever looked before. "Arrange the meeting," he said. "I will face the consequences of my decision." The news spread quickly through what remained of the Dominion. The Emperor himself was going to meet with the humans. Some species were hopeful. Maybe there would be peace at last. Others were afraid. What would the humans demand? Would they want revenge? On Earth, President Hayes prepared for the most important meeting in human history. She chose her team carefully. Admiral Henderson, who had led the war. General Vance, who had started Protocol Prometheus all those years ago. Colonel Peters, whose Marines had taken world after world. And Ambassador Daniel, who had stood alone in the Senate chamber 5 years ago and heard the galaxy tell humanity to go away. "Are you ready for this?" asked Daniel. Daniel looked at her. His hair had gone gray in the years since the exile vote. His face had new lines, but his eyes were still sharp. "I have been ready for 5 years," he said. "I stood in their hall and begged for acceptance. This time I stand as a victor. I am very ready." The human delegation boarded the TSS Defiance and headed for the meeting point. Behind them, a fleet of 500 warships followed, not to attack, just to remind everyone watching that humanity was no longer weak. The galaxy had tried to push them out. Now humanity was pushing back, and the Emperor himself was about to learn that sometimes the smallest species in the room is the most dangerous one. The space station called Concordia Prime had once been a busy place. Traders from 100 worlds had walked its corridors. Ships had filled its docking bays. Voices had echoed through its halls in 1,000 different languages. Now it was empty. The war had driven everyone away. Only silence remained. Until today. Emperor's flagship arrived first. It was one of the few Imperial ships that had survived the war. It looked small and tired, its hull marked with scars from battles it had barely escaped. Across the docking bay, the TSS Defiance waited. It was beautiful in a dangerous way. Its weapons gleamed. Its armor shined. It looked like what it was, the flagship of a navy that had never lost a battle. The two groups met in the station's central chamber. It was a round room built for exactly this kind of meeting. Long ago, great treaties had been signed here. Today, another one would be written. Emperor walked slowly. His 4 arms hung at his sides. His black eyes showed nothing of what he was thinking. Behind him came only 2 advisors. He had not brought soldiers. There was no point. The human delegation stood waiting. President Hayes in the center, Admiral Henderson on her right, General Vance on her left. Behind them, Colonel Peters and Ambassador Daniel. Studied them, they were so small, so soft-looking. No claws, no armor, no natural weapons of any kind. And yet they had done what no species in 10,000 years had managed. They had brought his empire to its knees. "You wanted to negotiate," the Emperor said. His voice was flat, tired. "Tell me your terms." Stepped forward. 5 years ago you voted to exile humanity. You said we were too young, too violent, too unstable for your galaxy. I remember. Do you remember what our ambassador said that day? That we had learned from our mistakes, that we had grown. Nodded slowly. I remember. I did not believe him. You should have. His voice grew hard. Because the lesson we learned was simple. Never again would we let others decide our fate. Never again would we beg for acceptance from those who thought we were beneath them. And now, the Emperor asked, you have shown your strength, you have proven you can destroy us. What do you want? Revenge, the death of the Dominion. Admiral stepped forward. His uniform was clean, but his eyes held the weight of every battle he had fought. If we wanted to destroy you, we would have done it already. We had your location in our targeting system 6 months ago. We chose not to attack it. His black eyes widened slightly. Why? Because revenge is not victory, General Vance said. Burning your worlds will not bring back the 5 years we lost, will not restore the colonies we were forced to leave, will not heal the pain of exile. Nodded, we want something better, something that will last. She raised her hand, and a hologram appeared in the air. It showed a map of the galaxy with human territory marked in blue. The blue areas stretched across spaces that had once belonged to the Dominion. Here are our terms. First, all human colonies are returned to us with full independence. We control our own worlds. No one tells us what to do. Second, continued, the Dominion recognizes humanity as an equal member of the galactic community. Not junior members, not species on trial, equal partners with every other civilization. Third, said, the voting system of the Senate changes. No single species or group can ever exile another. Problems are solved through talking, not through decrees. And fourth, she finished, you personally will speak to the Senate and admit that the decision to exile Earth was wrong, not because we forced you to say it, but because it was true. Was silent for a long time. His advisors shifted nervously behind him. The terms would change everything about how the Dominion worked. The old power structures would crumble. If I refuse, he finally asked. Shrugged, then the war continues. We have the ships, we have the soldiers, we have the will to keep fighting. Your empire falls piece by piece until there is nothing left to negotiate with. But we would rather not, added. Her voice softened just a little. Believe it or not, Emperor, we did not want this war. We wanted exactly what Ambassador asked for 5 years ago. Friendship, trade, cooperation, a place among the stars. You could have accepted the exile, said. You could have stayed in your system and lived in peace. No, shook her head. We could not. That is not who we are. Humanity does not give up. We do not surrender. We do not accept limits placed on us by those who do not understand us. That is the lesson you failed to learn about our species. Colonel Peters stepped forward. His face was marked with scars from the ground battles he had led. I lost friends on Prime, on worlds whose names most humans will never know. They did not die for revenge or conquest. They died so their children would never face the choice we were given: submit or fight. The chamber was quiet. No one moved. No one spoke. Then Emperor stood up from his seat. He walked toward Hayes until they stood face to face, human and victor and defeated. 5 years ago, said slowly, I cast my vote because I was afraid. I saw your species as a danger to everything we had built. I was wrong. He paused. Not wrong about the danger, that part was true. Humanity is the most dangerous species this galaxy has ever seen. But I was wrong about what that meant. I thought danger had to be contained, controlled, locked away. His black eyes met. I should have seen it as a chance. A species that fights so hard, that adapts so fast, that refuses to lose even when they should. Such a species would make powerful friends. Is that acceptance? Asked. It is understanding, replied. I will speak to the Senate. I will admit my mistake. I will support the changes you have asked for. He paused. But I want something in return. What? Teach us. Show us what makes humanity so strong. Help us understand how such a young species did what ancient civilizations could not. Thought about the request. After everything that had happened, helping the species who had exiled them seemed strange, almost wrong. But she had meant what she said. Revenge was not victory. We will do more than teach you, she said finally. We will show you. Welcome to the new galaxy, Emperor. Humanity is home. 20 years later, Ambassador Daniel returned to the Senate chamber. He was old now, his hair completely white, but his step was strong and his voice was clear. The hall that had once voted against humanity was now filled with species who respected them. Some had fought against Earth. Some had surrendered. Some had joined willingly. All of them had learned the same lesson. We are not your enemies, Daniel said to the assembly. We never were, but we are also not your victims. We are humanity, and we are here to stay. The chamber filled with applause. 100 different species clapped and cheered and whistled in their own ways. The sound was beautiful. Far away in his palace, the old emperor watched the broadcast. He was dying now. His body was finally giving up after centuries of life. But he smiled. The worst mistake of his reign had become its most important lesson, and the galaxy was better for it. Humanity had taught them all something valuable. Strength does not come from keeping others down. It comes from refusing to be kept down yourself. And sometimes, the youngest species in the room has the most to teach. The stars shined on a new galaxy, a galaxy where humanity finally had its place, not because they were given it, because they took it, and they would never let it go.